What's up, guys and gals, and welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be taking a look at a title called The Unliving. This is a game where you're a necromancer and you have awakened from a long slumber, and you have found that the world is not how you know it, and you need to reclaim your power and annihilate humanity, because it's what they deserve. Let's be honest, like, they all deserve to get got. And so anyways, in the pursuit of that power, you're going to be building an undead army, raising the dead, wiping out peasants, obliterating their heroes, things of that nature, while accumulating all kinds of skills and abilities and things of that nature. And so today we're going to spend about 25 minutes with the game, check it out, and I'm going to give you some of my thoughts about it. I've put about 4 or 5 hours into the game now, where I've played quite a bit, and you'll notice that, like, this game is hovering around like 55% positive reviews on Steam right now, and I thought that deserved investigation because we covered the demo, I'd say probably about a year ago that they put out, and I thought that the demo was really promising, but the demo was clearly missing pieces. And so anyways, those pieces are now all here, and I think we can appraise it as a full product, because ultimately if you're going to sell something for money, it should be open to critique. And so today I'm going to be hanging out, and I'm going to be trying to show you the game while also talking about the things that I think actually people are rightfully kind of upset about with the title. So anyways, let's dive on in. How does this game control? It actually controls a lot like Overlord, if you've ever played that. It's very, very similar to Overlord. Effectively, you right-click where you want your army to go, and they will focus on murdering pretty much everything in that direction and annihilating it. Right now, we're escorting a giant Titan guy to try to wipe out the world of the living. We're not going to succeed because I'm not playing with full brain power right now. I'm just kind of like putting this as a backdrop for the gameplay. But right-click is going to move your army around whenever you've got dead bodies on the ground and they've got little white skulls above their heads. That means that you are able to resurrect. And then, of course, you've got abilities in the bottom left. I can do like an auto attack. I can like summon skeletons. I can summon turrets and things of that nature, just in case I wanted to wipe out the enemy a little bit faster and assist. And of course, over on the right, you have the ability to sacrifice any of your character classes you want. So like your infantry, your ranged, or your giants. Based on the upgrades that you've picked, sacrificing them will have different effects. It might be an AoE, it might summon a ghost, it might discharge a bunch of laser sights that kill everything in an area. It's a valid strategy. Let's go ahead and we'll roll through these guys right here. We got to wipe out some of these towers, otherwise they're going to kill Apotheosis, and then we're going to lose the boss fight. And I don't like losing, man. Losing feels terrible. I'm an undead badass. I deserve to win. We do have a lot of guys over there that are really holding us back. Let's go ahead and push. Ow, I've been shot with an arrow. People tend to do that when you come to annihilate their farms and obliterate their smithies and all those kinds of things. And so anyways, I'll command them all to take down the buzzsaw thrower real fast so that Apotheosis doesn't take damage. We need to wipe that out as well. However, it hurt me in the process. Let's get everybody up here. Sometimes it can be kind of hard to command your guys. I've found that every now and again it takes me like 7 or 8 clicks to get them to do the thing that I actively want them to do. It can be a little bit troublesome. And so anyways, control issues are abound with this game. On the top left, you can see my HP. It's divided into cells. When one of those cells is gone, it doesn't come back until you have picked up a specialized item that restores a cell. And so anyways, avoiding letting it fall below certain thresholds is a really, really, really good idea. You don't want to do that. Underneath that in green is my mana. Pretty much all of my spells are fueled by mana, although some things do have an exception to that rule. What you may notice is that there's like little green motes and like little bones all over the ground. Those are there for a reason. Those are another resource that you use in order to eliminate the enemy. Apotheosis is almost through the gate, but we are getting kind of low on units right now. Little bit worrisome. I'm going to try to help out with a little bit of magic. Unfortunately, there are a lot of werewolves running around, and it looks like my army has been laid asunder. But we made it to the gates of the city. The game does come strapped with a narrative. It seems to be modeled pretty heavily on something like Hades, where every time you do a run and every time you make it like a little bit further, there's a bunch of like dialogue and like lines that the characters that comprise the game are going to spit out there. This is definitely the end. I'm definitely getting annihilated right now. Feels bad. I made it through the gate, but unfortunately, making it through the gate was not good enough. But anyways, every single time you make it to certain points in the game, what's ultimately going to happen... Yeah, res whatever that is. Maybe it'll help. Oh, cool, dude. It's like a little bone boat. Nice, dude. I'm going to jump on the bone boat. Sweet, dude, we made it out of the bone boat. But every time you beat a level, or every time you go in between levels, or you die, there's going to be dialogue with a bunch of supporting characters back at your hub. You're accumulating resources and using them to upgrade your character. We'll talk about those and some flaws that I potentially see in the progression system a little bit later on. In fact, there will be a big section at the end of the video where I summarize all my thoughts about the game, and for right now, we'll just focus on playing and letting the game speak for itself. Apparently, I am in the Caradwathian Mires. All right, never made it this far. Sweet, dude. Let's go ahead and get a life spark. That's one of those things that restores one of our health cells right there, in case you were wondering. This is an echo essence. Basically, everything in this game is divided into essence, it's divided into bones, it's divided into blood. Everything is one of those three categories, and it exploits one of those resources in order to give you a little bit of an extra push against the enemy. We've also got a sacrifice system. So right here, what we're picking up is an ability. You can sacrifice your allies at any time to get a resource called Ash, which is used for upgrading your auto attack and making your abilities better. And when you sacrifice them, there's usually a spell effect that's attached to that. So like right here, if I sacrifice a giant, all of the echoes around will become warrior wraiths that will attack the enemy. If I sacrifice a fighter, they will explode and throw bones at everything around them, dealing even more damage. Or if I take this right here, it's an active spell that'll replace my Q key that allows me to explode a dead body rather than resurrecting it to cause an AoE effect. I'm going to continue. Let's take the level 3 right there. That sounds pretty good. Do we have anything I can res around here? Yeah, I was going to say, I need some troops. There we go. There's like a little grave over here. We've got undead mire folk. Apparently, when they sacrifice, they deal damage over a small area. If there's no enemies around, they become landmines. Gotcha. All right. Let's go ahead and pick off this small group over here. I'm going to throw some spells in because, like, when you've got a really small horde, you kind of want to help out when and where you can with DPS. Unfortunately, the Necromancer himself is not actually that great of a combatant. I would like to see his abilities and his abilities damage raised. I think the key to success with a game like this is to lean into the power fantasy aspect and make the main player character like really, really strong. The game does suffer from pathfinding issues, as you saw right there when they walked around the frog statue. They have problems taking inputs, and they also have problems with pathfinding. They frequently get stuck on things, and so like if you're trying to navigate a corner, you basically got to click like a wide loop around the outside of it. Otherwise, they will get stuck and just kind of sit there pud watching, and it can be troublesome. I'm going to put a turret down just to help out with this damage. There we go. Let me res a few more mire folk. Looks like we got some rogues and things. The game does seem to have a pretty decent variety of enemies. It seems like there's like 4 to 5 enemy types for each map from what I've seen so far. Undead Rangers. They have a barrage of knives. Okay, you guys come back over this way. Go ahead and get on in there. I'm going to put another turret down just to help with this offensive because, as you can see, the turret is by far one of the best damaging attacks that I actively have. Hit registration and hitboxes in this game can be a little bit weird. Sometimes I've noticed my attacks going through enemies while not dealing damage. It doesn't happen all the time, but it definitely happens some of the time. It's most apparent when you are up against an enemy one-on-one and he's really fast and you're trying to escape him. If your mouse cursor is not directly over the top of an enemy, it seems like the bullet sort of does and doesn't exist in the game world. So if you're firing at an enemy that's behind another enemy, there's no guarantee that the attack is going to like hit the enemy in the front. But if your cursor is on the guy in the back, it will guaranteed affect him. And it can lead to kind of like this weird feeling when you're in like a pitched fight where something's chasing you very, very rapidly. Where it can, if your cursor is even slightly off that enemy, your bullets will just pass through him, dealing no damage. And it seems to affect certain auto attacks more than others. Let's go ahead and send them on in. I don't know if I have enough bones left right now to actually help out by dropping a turret. But we'll go over to this side, see if we can wipe these dudes out. We'll grab a few more zombies. We're up to 28 zombies right now. They've got some kind of like mega frog over here. Oh yeah, he was trying to pull me in, huh? Okay, let's put a turret down right there because I got a feeling the big guy's got to go. The good news is we can resurrect the big guy as well. So there it is. We've got a giant zombie frog now following us around. Giant zombie frog monster. Giant zombie frog monster. See if I can knock that out. Okay, so the guys behind the gate are mostly done. Another issue that I've noticed with this game is kind of like pooling. I assume that this is a design choice, but actually they should make the enemies collision boxes a little bit smaller, in my opinion. So what ends up happening is you'll have like 100 zombies during some of like the really, really big fights. And when you have those 100 zombies, when they clash with the enemy, really only like the 10 zombies in the front are going to be fighting, and like the archers in the back are going to be fighting, and then like the 80 guys in the middle are just going to stand there doing nothing. I think they could solve that a little bit by making it so that the units can compress in a little bit better. Like, they don't need to clip into one another's sprites in order to make that effective. They just need to grid a little bit tighter and a little bit better when going up against enemy grids. All right, so we raised a few more zombies. We'll go over to here. I do have some bones, so we'll put down a turret right there, and we'll let the turret do its rotten work. However, we do have an ambush coming from behind us out of that little cellar trap door. Whenever you see these cellar trap doors, there's going to be a pack of enemies that you engage with. Enemies will always come out of those trap doors to pinch you when you engage with that designated programmed enemy. And so anyways, always watch your back. The game is a big fan of that mechanic right there. Like, it really, really, really likes doing that. I would rather not get caught up by a giant hook shot right now. Bone turret doing the Dark Lord's work out here. I'm going to dump a quick magazine into them. Your auto attack in this game has limited ammo. I don't know how I feel about that. I would recommend 1 or 2 courses on that front. Either... So your character has to be stationary in order to auto-attack as the game is designed right now. Either, if they're going to remain stationary, give you infinite ammo, because your auto-attack really doesn't do that much damage anyways. Like, I've never felt like my auto-attack was the force multiplier that caused me to win a fight in this game. It's just kind of supplementary. The other option is, if it's going to keep the ammo, maybe consider allowing the Necromancer to continue moving while casting auto attack, just to instill a little bit of fluidity to the game, because engaging with the enemy does feel a little bit chunky in the current build, and that's largely due to the fact that like some of the semi-auto attacks, like the semi-auto attacks, they force you to stop every single time you cast, but there's enough time in the animation in between each attack to cause your character to like stutter step if you're holding a directionality, and it makes the gameplay feel chunkier and less smooth than it actively is. Like, I'm totally okay with having to stop to do certain activities like, you know, resurrect the dead or cast like a big nuke spell or explosion or whatever else, but I do think the auto attack could be fiddled with to make it more satisfying. Either allow the player to become effectively what is a deployable turret that can just endlessly machine gun in one spot, or B, you know, allow me to move but then keep the restriction on the ammo limits would be my recommendation there. And I think that would smooth out the way that the combat feels quite a lot, actually. We'll go ahead and fire down at those guys. It looks like they're all stuck on that one mob right there, so the rest of the horde was stuck behind my own guys and couldn't get down to these dudes right here. That's what I mean. They just need to flow a little bit better, in my opinion, in between, like, commands and objectives. Like, they need to check, and if they can't attack a guy, they need to just flow around that guy and pull up on the next guy they can attack. And I'm sure that programming something like that is just an absolute nightmare. I'm not trying to hand-wave that particular endeavor, but at the same time, it will need to happen, I think. We can do Blood Geyser. We've got Blood Chimeras, which are pretty fun, but I would have to replace my turret for that, and I really like my turret. Instead, let's convert our giants into a Blood Geyser. Honestly, I don't sacrifice my units that much. I would recommend that the game get a minimap as well. Sometimes it can be kind of hard to tell where the objective is to win the actual level, and the levels are quite sprawling. Now, it does have a wireframe map that you can open up on the M key, but I'll show it to you in a minute. It's very, very utilitarian, and I think its implementation could definitely be a lot more detailed. So we'll go ahead and hit the M key here after we close out that. And as you can see, it's just a wireframe. Like, it doesn't take into account barricades or, like, red dots for enemies or, like, little speckles for, like, bones and resources on the ground and things of that nature. I think it could be a little bit more detailed, and also I'd like to be able to have it on screen at all times, just so I can refer to it with maybe, like, an arrow telling me where the final exit is, so that when the game takes branch paths, I can figure out which paths lead to, like, loot and, like, extra upgrades for my character, and which paths will lead to my ultimate goal, because sometimes I'm trying to make a beeline for the end of the level, and other times I'm trying to accumulate more power because I feel like there may be still a little bit of struggle in our overall strategy. You missed a couple. You left a couple doggies out, dude. Bring them doggies home. What's across this bridge right here? Nothing? There are little events that are sprinkled throughout the levels, and the levels are procedurally generated. You will occasionally meet characters on the map somewhere and have conversations with them, and they will offer you trades, or they will offer you things that they can help you out with in exchange for resources and whatnot. And they have little dialogues that evolve as you get further on into the game and defeat certain bosses. Not to the level of specificity and detail as, like, Hades, but still, you can see the influence there as the game unfolds. Like, you can definitely tell whoever made this was a fan of Hades. I'll throw down a turret. Why not? I'm getting low on mana, though. I need to pick up some mana fairly shortly. All right, let's go down this way. We've survived yet another pincer attack. And in fact, we survived it gaining 18 units, which is pretty rad. There's the pincer attack from behind, unfortunately. I don't have enough bones to put a turret down, but the turret does have a considerable range. It's very, very quickly become one of my favorite abilities while testing the game out for this video. Wipe you out. There we go. Join the shambling horde. Hey, we're net +8 undeads. Your undeads do decay as you're walking around the map. It doesn't seem like it happens very quickly. I've seen other people complaining about it. Personally, it hasn't really affected me on a visceral level like it seems to be bothering other people. In fact, I haven't really noticed it until somebody brought it up. But apparently your units do suffer some form of decay while you're wandering around the map. Go ahead and raise a few more undead. Destroy that tower right there. See if we can grab a few more. There we go. A couple more enemies down. Drop another turret just for this group that's trying to pincer us right here. I have no idea what that thing is. Never seen that before. Apparently, it's just like an AoE that causes problems. And in fact, it killed a lot of our units when it went off. We lost a lot of guys right there. Depressing. All right. I guess they've got like druidic magic or something. Everybody pull back from the explosion. I don't want to get hit by further explosions. Oh, we picked up some kind of lich monster. Nice, dude. So I guess their priests become like liches or something of that nature. Let's go ahead and pull back, and we'll see where our next engagement is. Looks like there's a barricade over here. Ow, I ate an arrow. I ate it straight to my necromantic boobie. Feels bad. Yeah, maybe give me a turret around here somewhere. We appear to be losing. Those mines right there seem to be a very, very hard counter to my turret. Oh, there goes a life spark. All right, so we'll drop that guy right there. I'm going to just try to throw out. We should get a good infusion of units right here if we can survive this, because we did kill a lot of guys. Oh, maybe not. Looks like the bodies exploded or something. Okay, so we lost about half of our battle force. We're hurting right now. We're not feeling great, but we did find a shop, so that's good. Shops allow you to take your gold that you've gotten from various environmental objects that you can destroy and trade them for either upgrades or health or meta currency, whatever it is you want. This over here is a transmutation rune. It allows you to convert your ash, which is the resource you get for exploding your own units, for money. But be careful with that because you also need the ash to reinforce your auto attack and swap it around. I will probably buy a life spark, and then another life spark, and then maybe a bone essence. And we've got bone waiting for our ranged units. Tweaks the undead to self-repair by consuming bones. I do want to try that out. That actually sounds like it might be good in the heat of the moment. But I feel like maybe our run is coming to a close. Everybody get out of the AoE. There we go. Perfect. They actually responded to that one. Sometimes they don't. Let's go ahead and, yeah, everybody kind of repair with bones, I guess. Yeah, get some HP back. That actually seemed to be a pretty strong force multiplier. However, my army is in utter shambles right now. Ooh, we can get undead commanders. Sweet. I'm not going to spend too much time with the tutorialization because I don't think it's, like, crazy necessary. Yeah, eat some bones, dids. Yeah, I give you all permission to feast upon the bones of the living. And then I take permission for myself to resurrect the bones of the living. I'm going to summon a little horde of skeletons over here. And the game is just utterly fantastic looking. Like, it's a really good looking game. Like, I think this game can really, as far as, like, pixel art fidelity goes, it's one of the better looking games I think I've seen in a really, really, really long time. It's up there with Stone Shard. It's up there with, you know, all of those types of titles. Graveyard Keeper, the games that really put a lot of effort into their visual polish. Ooh, my army is finally down. Not good. Not good at all. See, this would be the time where I think a turret would be pretty helpful. Ow, 30 damage right there. Didn't want to eat that straight to the face, but I took it. Nothing I can res over here. Yeah, this is pretty nasty. This is pretty Uggletrons, man. All right, well, I mean, if we're going to die, it's a really, really good opportunity for me to show you the meta that happens in between the runs. And so anyways, these guys can just smack on me for a little bit. I'll do my best to machine gun them. Just go down swinging, you know what I mean? Go ahead and explode my giant right there. And it looks like it made some kind of disgusting chimera. Oh, wow, that may have saved us. That was pretty sick, actually. I should probably be sacrificing my giants when they're at low health a little bit more aggressively. I think that's what a smart person would do after seeing that evidence. I guess we may not be dead. I mean, we're hanging in there. Oh, there's a 31 from behind? Maybe he can call back his bullet. By and large, the enemies do not target you, except for those large glowing attacks you see, kind of Time Crisis style. The attacks that are Time Crisis style, or they've got a big red circle around your feet, are the ones that are targeting you. The enemies don't frequently use their auto attacks to go after the main player character, but it does happen from time to time. I'm going to eat those so that you guys can see the keep. And then we'll jump on into another run, and I'll summarize my thoughts about the game in short form for the people that jump from the beginning of the video to the end just to find out if this game is worth it. Because as I said previously, I do think that like the 55% rating that it's got on Steam right now is actually a really, really fair synopsis for a number of reasons, some of which I have touched on and some of which I have not touched on. But this is your base. The progression system in this game looks really, really cool. It's runes on the floor, and as you get these materials right here, you unlock the runes on the floor, and it adds new abilities, and it adds new items and things that can drop during your run. That's a good and a bad thing, in my opinion. I do wish there was some more passives to play around with, because I don't really feel that feeling of character growth. I just feel like it's expanding the pool of things I can get during a run that are all roughly equal with one another. And so anyways, I'm always a fan of, this is going to be a matter of opinion, but I'm always a fan of roguelike progression that's modeled after something like, say, Rogue Legacy 2, where every single upgrade is meaningful and does something. Everything gives you HP, everything gives you attack speed, everything gives you a new class, everything, you know, does something. And so anyways, in this game, I haven't really gotten that feeling so far. It's mostly like unlocking new items to show up in your Binding of Isaac run. That may change later on in the game, but I think I've unlocked some of the interactables. Like, I've got the Enchanter over here. The Enchanter will allow me to upgrade my auto attacks and things. So there is a little bit of that stuff here. But anyways, I'm pretty sure this stuff drops during the run as well, so you don't actively get these upgrades for your auto attack from the beginning. These are just upgrades that now using the Ash Forge that you can infuse your auto attack with, I think. I haven't seen any of these come up. The Ash Forge that I got gave me this ability. And so, anyways, I didn't really get a chance to upgrade or add anything to my old ability. There's also a throne, and these runes go on forever, by the way. There's like a lot of them. There's a ton of items in this game. Part of me was hoping that when you fully encircle like a node, like I did with this one right here, something will happen, like with this jar and the skull inside of it, but it hasn't happened so far. So I don't know. It's also very, very linear, which I think is a mistake. I think that giving the player a little bit more choice as to what they want to unlock and what they want to do. Yeah, so see, there's no interactivity right there. One thought, I pulled this, I already recorded this video. This is a second run, and the reason I did a second run is because I wanted to finish these upgrades that surround this kind of ectoplasm tank, because I wanted to see if maybe some of my critiques were wrong, and that if we actually fully encircled one of these things, it would like fully upgrade one of my units, like the skeletal warrior from level 1 to level 2, you know what I mean? Doesn't appear to be the case though, now that we've fully encircled it, but I would recommend that they start adding sort of like infantry, ranged, giant, and ghost specific trees that are somewhere here on the map that you can fiddle with in order to upgrade your units and make them stronger in between runs. This is the throne right here. The throne, if you sit on the throne, it allows you to upgrade your Necromancer himself, so you can get like ghoul arms, which means that every time I attack an enemy, or every time I sacrifice an undead, I regenerate ammunition for my auto attack. I've got Carrion Eater over here. If you lack the life force to perform a sacrifice, the undead with the least HP will be automatically drained in order to cover the shortage. Little things like that. But a lot of the stuff in this game seems to either be you unlocked a thing that will show up in your run, or sort of like a side grade that like minorly mitigates a problem. And I'd like to see the progression be a little bit more meaningful, in all honesty. Like I said, I'm a big fan of how like Rogue Legacy 2 handles its progression. That's one of the main things that I did not like about Hades, even though it's more or less a flawless game, is that the progression didn't really super feel like it mattered to me in Hades until you got to like the weapon upgrading. Like all the stuff from the Black Mirror and whatnot were kind of like just modifications to the way the game played in exchange for a cost rather than, you know, I mean, there were some things there like HP regeneration per room and like a bigger health pool. But anyways, I think Rogue Legacy does roguelike progression perfectly. Conjures a wave of bone protrusions to push away and damage the enemy. That sounds rad. I'll take it. And so anyways, let's go ahead and murder the land of the living. We'll go ahead and annihilate them. And this is where I'm going to give you 5 or 6 minutes of my thoughts about the game in condensed form for the people that didn't want to watch the whole thing. They just wanted to jump straight on in, you know, is this game worth it or is it not worth it? The Unliving was actually a really tough game for me because, like, I was really hyped about this game. Like, I came in ready to glow about it, and I played for an hour, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. 2 hours, I've still got that feeling. And next thing I knew, it had been 4 or 5 hours, and I wasn't playing the game because I wanted to play it more. I was playing the game because I wanted to dig deeper. And I wanted to collect my thoughts for a video, basically, now, because there were so many little things that I was noticing that I started doing runs specifically to see if I could trigger certain things to happen and see if it was reproducible. But don't take this next section like I'm doing critique on this game because, you know, it looks awesome, and I think it's going to attract a lot of people in with the very slick art style. And so I have an old video on the game from the demo a long time ago sitting there where, you know, I just played through it, and we had a good time. This time around, though, it's being sold for money. And now that it's being sold for money on the promise of early access, like, people are using their hard-earned cash effectively to finance your dream, and so it should be open to critique. It's only fair. And so anyways, I am rooting for this game. I love Necromancy, I love Warlocks, I love wizardry stuff, and I want more of it to get made. So please don't take any of these critiques as me hoping for the game to fail or anything else like that. In fact, the opposite. I really hope they pull this together because I think it is fixable. I think it is. It's just right now, yeah. And so anyways, they got to get this thing patched up to make a smoother, more satisfying experience. But that does make me apprehensive because a lot of the problems like pathfinding that existed in the demo still exist now a year later, which is worrying on kind of like a, it's good enough level. I'm going to lead off by saying I don't think the game is quite ready for a buy yet. The things that it does right, it does really right. Like, the game is dripping with some of the best pixel art that I've ever seen in my career and is utterly littered with little details like blood pools and skull piles in your base getting larger as your body count goes up and you hit certain thresholds of, you know, storyline progression. Like, enemies and allies alike are fully animated and perform different animations based on whether they're moving, living, dying, running, on fire, exploding, poisoned, and the sound effects for all that is great too, or are great. The screams of the dead and dying, the moans of the horde, they really help you get into the game, and the soundtrack is really cool. So when this game is working properly, you can feel that nugget of fun in there in the chaos and mayhem. But the problem is, it's not always working, and those little moments are fleeting. And so anyways, as of right now, I'd say the game suffers from 2 main problems and a number of smaller ones. The first and foremost is the pathfinding. This is by far the biggest issue, and the way that your zombies block access to other zombies when they make contact with enemies. In the first case, like your zombies, they're constantly getting stuck on stuff, including one another. That requires loads of clicks from the player and roundabout looping piloting in order to get the army to do what you want. Some autonomy and some brain power here would help. And I know people are going to be like, but Splat, it's a zombie game. Yeah, it's a video game. Like, it's fine. They don't need to be perfect reproductions of imaginary zombies. And then second, the game seems to want you to dodge AoEs a lot, pretty frequently, and due to the control issues, the Horde doesn't really respond to commands once they've entered combat in a meaningful way to make it consistently possible to dodge the telegraphed attack, which leads to, like, huge losses. You'll find yourself clicking like a dozen times trying to get them to disengage, but they won't do it, and then they'll eat the AoE. Or like you'll get hit by a random attack while trying to kind of roundabout pilot your guys around, and so either you or your army takes a big hit, a lot of the time because you're just trying to get the army to do what you want it to do. Like, the movement and the piloting of the horde is a baseline feature that needs to be shored and polished up. It can't be ignored. It makes the game feel clunky in combination with every little action the Necromancer does requiring him to stop, including his auto attacks. There are also needs to be a way for your units to actively engage even when they can't reach the enemy due to a sea of allied bodies. Whether that's something like every single unit in the game having like a weaker secondary ranged attack they swap to, like throwing stones or throwing bones or whatever, that do less than their melee attack but still do something. I don't know if that's a real solution, but basically it's not a ton of fun watching half of your 100-guy horde sit there idle doing nothing while the other half is fighting the enemy and getting slaughtered. And you know, it's just like, I have so many more guys, just like steamroll over the top of them, you know. Second, this is a lesser issue, but it still does matter. The progression doesn't really seem to progress your character. It just adds more things to the pool of stuff that can drop during runs that are all roughly equal with one another, although not really. Adding more things is all well and good. I love more things, but I'd like to see some meatier, more meaningful options when it comes to upgrading damage, HP, attack speed, armor for both the Necromancer himself and for each individual army type like infantry, archer, giant, so on and so forth. You do get useful perks from time to time in the very, very linear perk tree, but they're spaced out pretty far by like new spells and things that, like, yeah, you may not even see them for a couple of runs. The pool's getting pretty large, and I've only played for like 4 hours. On top of that, a lot of the abilities need balancing. Like, there are some abilities that I've locked down that are 100% meta. If you have that, easy run. Other runs, if you take certain things to try new things out, you will find that some abilities are definitely way, way, way better than others. And ideally, I'd like everything to be at a parity where every choice is like a fun choice. Aside from the things there, I noticed other things in no specific order here. Enemy attacks can be kind of hard to read in the chaos of like a massive 100v50 battle. They're going to need to find a way to telegraph player-focused attacks better with how visually chaotic the game is. But I think that's going to be tough, but they're going to have to figure out some way to do it. Menus in the game could feel heavier and more substantial. I've accidentally upgraded abilities in the Cathedral and not really noticed because there's no feedback or anything when you click on the tiles in the throne or like the forge areas. A click and hold animation right there that slowly fills the rune with magic while the Necromancer muses like a cartoon villain about becoming stronger would be good. So you get like a ting, you know, and then he does like a one-liner like, yes. You know, something like that would really, really help out there. Hitboxes, they can be a little bit weird. They're mostly fine, but they can be a little bit weird. I've taken a couple of sketchy hits that look like they were pretty far off to the side, and as mentioned earlier in the video, your auto attacks sometimes seem to pass through enemies without dealing damage unless your cursor is like directly on top of them when you fire the attack. Ideally, I'd like to see the bullet actively exist in the world and hit whatever it hits en route to what you're pointing at, and so that would be the solution there. But I would say in closing that I think 55% that the game has been hovering at for the last couple days is actually pretty fair on Steam, because half of the game is done exceptionally well, the presentational part. The mechanical chunk of the game and the implementation chunk of the game, though, is definitely going to need a lot of polishing, a lot of balancing, and some light restructuring, or maybe some major restructuring before I'd say, hey, this is worth your $15. Nevertheless, I am rooting for this game just because of the premise. I think this is potentially a good game if they can get that stuff shored up. I wish that it was a super rad, super polished, you know, content light early access right now, but, you know, piss in one hand, wish in the other, see which one fills up first. I really don't want this video to be taken in such a way that, you know, I'm like hoping for the game's failure. Nobody was cheering for this game more than me, and I continue to cheer for it, but I had to come to the conclusion that I don't think it's quite ready yet. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what's worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, we had the Unliving. Tomorrow we will have something else. Thank you for spending your time with me and the luxury of your attention, and I'll be back later with something hot and fresh off the indie skillet. Bye, folks.